So one of the main things that got me into this style of training, where I'm working to fix injuries and then rebuild the body so it can perform the best that we can make it, is I strained my hamstring really bad playing rugby. I went to put the ball down, try zone, and my hamstring completely popped. It's after about a 50-yard sprint, but I was the strongest I'd ever been. I didn't understand why I had this happening to me, and I realized that I was imbalanced structurally, and I had to rebalance that. And going on that journey helped me understand how the body works. And specifically with hamstrings, I realized that so many other people are running into the same problem. They might be super strong, but they're tearing their hamstrings. So these are 3 highlights from different clients that I've helped with hamstrings, and so many others have also had great results with these movements for the hamstrings.
So the first time with my hamstring, it was hurting to do any kicks or clicks, but within a week I was able to compete at my full level of dancing, and I was able to qualify for the Worlds for Irish dancing. At both of those competitions, I was able to still dance to my full potential, and I didn't have to worry about my hamstring or my ankle was going to be hurting or that I was going to make it worse by dancing, which was really nice.
I never thought I would get injured. I was at a pool. What happened is the cement was slick. There was water on it. I took a step and my foot just went out. The second one was in a grocery store and I stepped on a grape. That was on the other leg. The third time was at the park and it had been raining. A little bit of mud on the ground, and the first leg did it all over again. And I went, that's it. I need to get myself. I've caught myself several times now. If I do slip, that I can catch myself because my muscles are stronger and can hold me back, and get me back in place. I feel better that I can do what I couldn't do before because of hurting my hamstrings, as now I can. I couldn't touch my toes. I can do that now. There's things that I can do now that I couldn't do before. You've really helped me gain confidence.
So I was out running some sprints and I popped my hamstring, totally felt it pop and go, and I grabbed it. I was in a lot of pain. And then I, reached out to you, asked how I should move forward, followed the exercises daily in regards to what you said to do, and did them twice a day if that was what I was in the protocol. It was about 2 weeks after that I was out running, so about 4 weeks total, that I was out and able to do anything and not feel it or feel like I was worried about if I was going to hurt it again.
So this is going to be phase 1. I'm going to run through what I do right when somebody strains their hamstring to then building out the rest of the hamstring, so then we can start training it again, which that training it again to get back to sprinting is going to be part 2. So stay along for the first part, rehab it, rebuild it, and then really see the performance in it after. So to give you a little bit of the anatomy of the hamstring, there's 4 heads for the hamstring. Most of them are, or 3 of them are attaching to the knee and the hip joint. 1 just attaches to the knee, and then the middle of the femur, a little bit higher than the middle. So you got the semimembranosus, which is the complete inside, semitendinosus, which is right after, and then the bicep femoris, which has the long head, which attaches to both, and then the short head, which just attaches to the knee and the femur. So when we're looking at which head you pulled, it can be important to know where you had the injury and how we'll get out of it. So the best way to know that is using a hamstring curl, but because most people don't have access to a hamstring curl right away, we're gonna look at the band and then just do holds with it. So I'm gonna move this back and then see me straight. So when my toes are in, I'm gonna be contracting the semimembranosus, semitendinosus a little bit more. So if I'm holding it in there, it's on that inside, then it's gonna be a little bit more challenging for those. Versus if I externally rotate my foot, then it leads to the external rotation into the hip. Just a tad bit, but that's gonna hit more of the bicep femoris and now you're going, okay, so I know it's either 1, 2, or 1, 2, bicep femoris, semimembranous tendinosis, but how do I know if it's different than that? And for the bicep femoris, that's an easy question. If it bothers you doing hip movements, then it's going to be the long head that has more damage, versus if it's primarily only with knee flexion movements, then it's going to be more of the short head. Granted, a lot of the time you have damage to multiple, but it's one is always almost always worse. And just knowing that allows us to target your training towards that problem. For the semimembranosus or tendinosis, the membranosus is going to feel more like it is in the groin. So it's going to feel more like this, versus the tendinosis is just right on the inside. So if you feel it kind of roll more in here, it feels more like a groin strain. Also, if you stretch kind of the groin and move through different motions like that, and it feels rough, then it's more likely the semimembranosus. Those two can be more difficult to tell the difference between, partly because they're very similar in their functions, but they are different. So that's where you can tell a difference. But if you know the general, if you know it's on the internal or external rotation of the feet, that's the main thing we're looking for. So is it the semis 1, 2, or is it the bicep femoris short or long head that we're going to work on? And that's going to come back in later for you to understand. So understand that now, and then I'll bring it back up. The first phase is going to be recovery. So this is after the injury is set. Typically, it's set after you go to sleep and wake up. Sometimes it takes people a little bit longer. The younger you are, the faster it's going to set. Is it ever completely set? No, that's when it's healed. So we just want the inflammation to kind of be in there, so then we can move it around, start working on it. So you got massage, flex, and poke it. That's the three things that I like to talk about. Especially with the hamstrings, they oftentimes will not be used for some time when they get strained. And the problem with that is the blood pools up. So when you see people who have strains and they get really, really black and blue, a lot of the time they just didn't move it enough. It can be a little bit of genetics and age as well, but if they didn't move it, that's going to make it worse. So for this first part, which is the first few days after the strain, you're kind of massaging it, moving it around. You're trying to decrease the inflammation a little bit. You don't necessarily want to ice it unless it's really, really bad. An ice bath is going to be quite a bit better than icing the spot, because you get the whole adaptation through the whole body. Also changes how your brainstem releases basically the stuff that needed to heal it. For the massage, you're kind of just moving your fingers around like this. As it gets more comfortable, you can kind of tap it like that. And then for flex it, when I'm in the car, I'm always curling in. So if I'm in the car, there's no band. I'm generally just like trying to pull the ground like this. Seems a little bit weird, but you'll start to feel it, and you'll feel it a lot if you've just strained your hamstring. You're like, oh, wow. You want to build that mind to muscle connection back without any load. And as you get a little bit stronger, so maybe not the first day, but the day after that, just depends on your pain tolerance, but also your recovery time. Holding in this position, then lifting up your foot and just keeping that, not letting it open up here and then back down here and back down, can be really good to get activation. I've done this the day after with Colleen specifically, opening up or reactivating the muscle so we can get her back to when she had to dance. And the next phase is continued activation and reconstruction. So we want to start getting the motion back into the hamstring. I started this 2 days after a sprain or a strain with a client, and we started building it up. We wanted to get it as much pain-free as possible, getting there a pump in the hamstring. So bands doing pulses are really good. So we started with the isometrics, then we start moving, doing a little bit of pulses. As you do the eccentric going down, it can be a little bit rough on the hamstring after it's strained. So that's why you just keep it nice and light in that short range. And like I said before, if semitendinosus and membranosus, you're going to want to internally rotate your foot and your whole leg as much as possible. You get more of that hamstring, part of the hamstring, versus externally, you get more of the bicep femoris, short and long head. So that's the first one with the bands. You also can use sliders. There are ways to do this with, like, you can buy them. They're like glute ham developers for home, I think is the name for them. But there's little wheels, you put your feet in them and go, or you use sliders like this. And if you can, pick up your butt and then curl in and then put your butt down and go back. So here, curl, back down. Eventually you can go here, and then it's a little bit hard to do both at the same time. But then here, I like to do one foot as well. So that's a little bit more advanced than with the band. As you can see, it gets a little bit farther. As you get stronger, you can even go all the way out here and then come back. All the way out and then come back. The slight bit of stretch will be a little bit difficult. You can use it on the bench as well. So if you're here, curling up and into the bench. Coming back down if you feel strong enough. This one, you can't isolate the concentrics, so the way up, because you have to get down as well. So it's a little bit after the sliders. The last one there is the hamstring curl machine, which is seated hamstring curl. This mimics a seated hamstring curl. It's the best. You can be in that short range just a little bit more. And then a lying hamstring curl. So building those out, doing reps and keeping them a little bit heavy, but 6 to 8 reps. You don't necessarily need a lot of reps, but it's gonna be light from where you probably were beforehand. We want to get that stronger and stronger and stronger, rehabbing it again, using your feet at different angles. Don't just train the ones that are strong, train the ones that are weak too. If you have bicep femoris, it's the out. And we're just rebuilding. That's why it's called activation reconstruction. So the last section for this video is phase 1 of the rebuild, which is where we're going to start building length back into the hamstring. Part 2 of the hamstring videos will be on the rest of if you want to get back to sprinting and things like that. So for building length back, one of my favorite ones is the elephant walks. But before I have somebody do an elephant walk, I generally want to see them just stretch their hamstring. So here and leaning down, holding that. Remember that when you have an injury, we don't want to just work on that injury. We want to work and give it the +2 rule, 2 steps down. So if you strain your hamstring, you want to work on your calf and your plantar fascia as well to open that back up, because that's going to tense up when you strain the hamstring. That also goes to the glutes and lower back. So it goes up 2, down 2. So keep those stretched and open throughout this whole process, because this is solely on the hamstring. We're going to focus on the hamstring, but even on that day 2, start stretching the plantar fascia again. Do it pain-free for the hamstring, of course. So we had the hamstring stretch here. Toes are up. A slant board can work really good. I had to run to the other side of the gym, get my slant board. So a slant board can work really good to get the calves first, and then going straight from there to the hamstrings. If you keep your back straight, you're gonna get more hamstring, more of the hamstring behind the knee for me, just because that's where it's tight. Now, if you curl your back, you're gonna get more of the whole posterior chain. Both are beneficial, both are good. But if you wanna genuinely just see how tight the hamstring is, keep the back straight, an extension, and hinge straight over. It's quite a bit tighter, and I'm just about there. I sat a lot today, I had a lot of driving. And then the second step to that is the elephant walks. So elephant walks is starting to learn to contract the hamstring into that stretch position. We're going down to where we can comfortably, a little bit past comfortable, and then opening up one step at a time. As you go through this, you'll feel the hamstrings active, straight, and then back here. Again, you can do this one with your back straight, and you'll feel the hamstrings, and for me, the calves are actually really tight right now, quite a bit more. So those are the 2 that I do to start the rebuild phase, because we need to build length back in to the hamstring just very slowly. When I'm running a session, it's build a bunch of blood flow, and then we're gonna gently stretch it on that injury. And we don't want to cause any extra inflammation with the stretching, but stretching does cause inflammation. So it's a fine game of find how much we can do to rebuild, and then we see them again next session. We rebuild, next session, we rebuild, next session, And that's where it continues on to getting back to that sprinting. So follow for, or subscribe, been doing Instagram too long, for the next video, part 2 of the hamstring, and we'll get your hamstrings feeling as good as new is the idea. So let's do it.